Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. This is Naaman with the DC Camp, Branch of Great Millstone. Alright, GMS, back for another video. Call hello Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Rakahakwadash. And of course, once again, double honors go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone. Alright, who rule well. Salutations also go out to the fellow Akim that are out there on the highways and byways, pushing the truth across the four corners of this earth. Alright, here we go again. BS himself, Ben Shapiro. See, even got the small hat on. Guess what? They're pushing for Trump to give this piece of shit here a pardon. I wonder why. Could it be to provoke Jake into an uprising where they could come crashing down? I'm just saying, don't fall for it. You know, here we go.
They are now calling for the release of Derek Chauvin and pressuring Trump to pardon him as well. Ben Shapiro leading the charge. Here it is.
If we are issuing pardons, however, there is one person that President Trump should pardon from federal charges forthwith. It would be incredibly controversial, but I think that it's absolutely necessary. That person is Derek Chauvin. President Trump should, in fact, pardon Derek Chauvin. But when it came to BLM, the inciting event for the BLM riots that caused $2 billion in property damage in the United States and set America's race relations on their worst footing in my lifetime.
See, remember, he's done shit in stages. He did away with the reporting system that tracked misconduct nationwide by the police. He, who was it that was with him at the game? Daniel Penny, the one that murdered, what's his name? The Jake on the subway in New York. And they kept it hush what happened here in DC over the summer. I think it was July or August, where you had this Edomite inspector that attacked Jakes on Metro here. And there have been other things that they've also here in DC, just recently they exonerated and supposedly put back on the job 2 Edomite police officers that, I think they were both Edomites, that were chasing this Jake on a moped, and he ran into traffic and was killed. And at least one of them tried to cover it up. So they were pardoned. And like I say, I think they were reinstated. This has just happened over the last few days. And there's at least a couple of more. So he's purposely here trying to incite something here amongst Jake. This is a JOO, a fake Jew, alright, an Edomite, an Amalekite, and hey, let's face it, Candace Owens lit his ass up, for what it's worth. So he's still got a little, hurt feelings here, and these are the people that, they're the ones that initiated and financed the slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade, alright. That's that Psalms 83 there, because they conspired with who? Ishmael, so-called Arabs, other Edomites, and also Hamites. All right. So here we go. Let's continue.
Was in fact the railroading of Derek Chauvin in the death of George Floyd. The evidence demonstrates that Derek Chauvin did not, in fact, commit murder of George Floyd. George Floyd was high on fentanyl. He had a significant pre-existing heart condition. Talk about delivering pardons. President Trump, I think, should really seriously consider pardoning on federal charges. He can't pardon on state charges. Derek Chauvin, who was convicted of the murder of George Floyd. As I say, we will be covering this pretty...
Let me say something else before I go on. You have to also take into account how these prosecutors, how they fix shit in people like this' favor. And what I mean by that is you have terms that run consecutively and concurrently. Why, oh why, all right, if you got state and federal charges, as this piece of shit does, are they not run consecutively instead of concurrently? All right, so there's no reason for him to get out no earlier than 40 years, if at all. But this is what I mean. But Jake, they're going to give him like 125 years, plus no chance of parole or some other weird-ass number. And they're going to make sure you do at least the majority of it.
Extensively in the coming weeks. Right now, you should go to pardonderek.com and sign our petition asking President Trump to grant justice to Officer Derek Chauvin.
What is this about? Put it a full mask. Elon Musk is also down with this insane party. MAGA trolls, right-wing influence.
And what are the odds of that? Here it is, this piece of shit, they call him Phony Stark, play on Tony Stark, Iron Man, who grew up in apartheid South Africa. And he's belongs to, what's the name of that group? It's a white nationalist group. I can't think of it. They had recently advocated for those pieces of shit to move over here because they're supposed to be so oppressed. Yeah. Anyway, so what are the odds of that? He would be pushing for that. Wow. See, there's a lot of things they're rolling back as it concerns us. All that civil rights era shit. And Jake, I guess you'd be surprised, it still doesn't see the danger. Because at the end of the day, it all comes back to us. Poor little us, those who can't defend themselves. And you have pieces of shit like this. Not only have they stolen our identity, all right, and you have to understand here, everything, no matter what avenue you take, be it education, anything here, it's all set up to establish an inferiority complex. And Jake, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you go to college and get 3, 4, 5 degrees. What are you really learning? Is it going to help you in the end? No. And then you get to a point where those that achieve status like that, they don't consider themselves like the rest of us. That's the way this is designed. Someone brought up the occasion where Charles Barkley and them were talking. I guess it was on NBA on TNT or something like that, and they were going in on that. More or less, they were saying amongst themselves, like, we leave all that stuff behind. We're like honorary Edomites, so-called whites. And that's just the way it is. You got to understand how all of that they can so easily take away from you. So you think they're going to risk that? That's why all this shit has to be brought down. Let me get some scriptures while I'm rambling here. This is Psalm 64. And of course, the heading is hide me from the wicked. That's what we're dealing with. Who runs this world? Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hands of the wicked. If not, who and where is he? All right, this is the banksters. All right, those that profess to be JOOs, they run this world. And don't you ever forget it. Let's start at 2. In fact, we'll start at 1. Hear my voice, O Most High, in my prayer. Preserve my life from fear of the enemy. Who is our enemy? There you go. Edom. Also the rest of the nations, but our primary is Esau Edom. He says, hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity. And these are the people that have the real power. The ones that are telling your president, for those of you that think he's the end-all be-all, no, there are those pulling the strings, all right, in the shadows, so to speak. Not so much anymore like it used to be, but yeah. 3, who whet their tongue like a sword, example of what you just heard, and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words, that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Who's the perfect? The Israelites. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. Is this not an evil matter? They're doing this in order to provoke Jake. All right. They commune of laying snares privily. And I've said this about all of them letting Northern Kingdom in here like they did the last administration. And others have said this, I thought this also, that was just something to try to kick off like a martial law possibility, but it didn't go the way that they thought or anticipated. So now here comes this shit. All right. Trying to pit Israel against each other, but it didn't work like that. So now here they go with this asshole here, Chauvin. All right. And it's only going to get worse from here on out. It says they encourage themselves in evil matter. They commune of laying snares. This is a snare. This is a trap. Privily, they say, who shall see them? Arrogant fucks. They really think they're doing something that, Yahweh Shah does not see. 6, they search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search. Both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. But the Most High shall shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded. Let's go back to the video.
MAGA trolls, right-wing influencers, spark outrage after demanding Trump pardon Derek Chauvin in George Floyd's death, despite state conviction. They're doubling down. Now keep that picture up. We are headed into the Great Depression again. Tariffs 25%. Mexico, Canada. We are on an island, even though we live in a globalized context. Donald Trump, within 2 months, has proven to be the absolute worst president and one of the worst human beings you will ever meet. In the midst of that, Shapiro decides it's a good opportunity to launch a campaign in order to free Derek Chauvin. Why? You see, it's already working. MAGA is already behind it. It's a distraction. It's a distraction from the fact that your taxes just got raised by $2,000 plus every year. It's a distraction that you cannot afford health care and you just got fired from your job, or somebody in your family or veteran has lost their income. It's a distraction. It's red meat, ladies and gentlemen. It's ceremonial at best because Derek Chauvin is convicted by the state and by the federal government. Which means a pardon from the feds.
He's still going to have to do his time.
Does absolutely nothing to free him. But they lose that in the context of their propaganda. And many MAGA fans don't know the difference. So Ben Shapiro, leading the movement, pardon Chauvin. Interesting, on Tuesday, his crusade welcomed another ally, very powerful one, Elon Musk, announced his support for Shapiro's campaign. Quote, something to think about, he said on X. Now, I want you to know, obviously, this was planned. It's not as if it was abrupt. He knew what was going to happen, and Elon was going to respond. The Daily Wire has now...
Because, see, you got to consider also, they know how to push Jake's buttons. And when we tell you about Jacob's trouble and all that, what's the first thing Jake Yeah, freak out, yeah, like this motherfucker, you know. And all the time, like he said, it's a distraction. All right, you're not paying attention to what you need to pay attention. Fuck him. It already got to him on the inside anyway. At least once already. I mean, like I say, what can he do? He's already got to serve his time out. Now he might, if there is time for him to finish his sentence, then he can pardon him. But what other purpose does it serve other than a distraction?
Launched this petition. The petition features part of this statement: Dear President Trump, we write to urge you to immediately issue a pardon for Officer Derek Chauvin. He's not even post-certified anymore. Who was unjustly convicted and is currently serving a 22.5-year sentence for the murder of George Floyd and associated federal charges. As you know, this was the inciting event for the BLM riots that caused $2 billion in property damage in cities across the United States and set America's race relations.
Again, the setup. Because that is an organization, all right, that is Edomites with just our face on it. So, of course, anything goes wrong, like you're seeing here, something to gripe about. Started or funded by George Soros. And you have to ask the question, why were 4 homosexuals? Because although there were 3 females that you regularly see that was associated with that, there was a 4th early on, a male. But why was that? And then someone caught on to the money, you know, the donations and all that, and the fact that they had their charter was to do away with what? The nuclear family amongst our people. In other words, getting rid of the man. It never changes. This feminist / homosexual bullshit. It's all tied together, and it was to destroy our family. It was so bad. Several years ago, there was an advertisement. I believe it was Target, and they caught a lot of flack for this because they had, I don't know if it was a family setting, but I'm trying to remember what was being sold. I think it was clothing, and everybody had a mom and a dad, nuclear family. And at the bottom you had the black woman and 2 children. Yeah.
On their worst footing in recent memory. Yet the evidence demonstrates that Derek Chauvin did not murder George Floyd. All of these are lies, by the way. George Floyd was high on fentanyl. He had a significant pre-existing heart condition. He was saying he could not breathe before he was even out of the car. Derek Chauvin, for large segments of the widely circulated video of the encounter, had his knee on George Floyd's shoulder or back, not on his neck. Man. You know, they tried this during the trial, remember? But the Constitution requires evidence in court. Jury of his peers judged him. He was able to face his accusers. All of his rights remained intact. Why is it that they have lost faith in the criminal justice system? It's interesting to note all of the arguments obviously do not pass any legal muster at all. Pre-existing conditions, that doesn't negate you from criminal acts. All right, a reminder, former Minneapolis police cop was found guilty of all 3 charges: 2nd-degree unintentional murder, 3rd-degree murder, and 2nd-degree manslaughter. He was later found guilty of 2 federal counts of violating Floyd's civil rights. Cop convictions are rare in a system where officers routinely face little to no consequences for civilian killings. At the time.
And this is why Trump is big on, what is that? Giving them immunity. I forget the proper term for it. But that's what it is, essentially. All right. Yeah, like I said, rolling back shit.
Time of the Chauvin trial, only 7 police officers have been convicted of murder for police shootings since 2005. The law favors police and gives them great latitude to use force. The prosecution also called nearly a dozen police officers who testified that Chauvin's use of force was excessive and unnecessary.
So his cohorts.
The police chief, Arredondo, called it, quote, murder, saying Chauvin ignored de-escalation and conflict resolution tactics mandated by the department. It's called an SO, standing order. Shapiro, in a separate video describing his petition, noted that Trump cannot pardon Chauvin in the state murder case.
There you go.
But still said it was important Chauvin be pardoned on federal charges. Chauvin's anticipated release date, December 10th, 2035. He's currently incarcerated in Arizona federal pen. Well, let me first ask, where are the Black Trump supporters? Why haven't you returned our calls or emails? You gave us all of this promotion and bravado about Trump being one of the greatest presidents ever. But I recall, Black Republican, you and I were on the same side during that case. Are you still on our side? I got a question. All right, dear brother, thoughts here.
Well, as not a Black Republican, I'm going to respond here. But I think that the notion that this set race relations back for 200 years, or whatever the actual quote was, because I don't pay particularly close attention to everything that Ben Shapiro says, is such a specious way of spinning it. Race relations were set back for 9 minutes and 24 seconds while George...
And that's just it. I'm glad he said that, because these people are the masters of spin. They spun an event that happened in World War II into something that it initially never was. But it gained them sympathy throughout the world because you had a lot of stupid people that don't, or I should say didn't, understand the scriptures to the extent that they didn't understand prophecy. All right. And you just had some that were just outright racist, and if they did, they were never going to admit it. But now, and this is another thing that's prompting a lot of this, because these people are running scared now, especially those over there, in our land. All right, because they recognize that the gig is up. People are on to them. They understand the scriptures better now as far as prophecy. They understand that they're not the Israelites. They ain't claim to be Israelis. That just means they're occupiers of the land. They can be Israelis, whatever. But all this shit that you're claiming and just committing outright murder, wholesale murder. All right, now let's be clear. Those people, the so-called Palestinians, those Ishmaelites over there, they don't belong there either. But they were there. That was, where they were living for a very long time before these thieves and murderers came over and did what they did. You know, per the Balfour Declaration and Rothschilds, they just, again, wherever they go, rape, robbery, and murder. And it's continued for over 70 years now.
Floyd was laying down on the street. And I would say that what happened afterwards pushed race relations forward, because you had people of every color and creed and sexuality and financial status behind calling for the conviction of Derek Chauvin, the bringing justice to these police officers, and supporting a community that has been wronged by the police for a long time. So I see it differently, you'll be shocked to know, than Ben Shapiro does. I also see what you said, Dr. Ritchie, a little bit differently, but not really, because I think when you say it's a distraction, I think everything that's going on is a distraction. And if you are flooding the zone in the way that this administration is doing, every day something new. Every day there is somebody being cut, somebody being fired, a department being closed, funding being withdrawn, people within their sphere calling for pardons for some of the worst people we have seen in America. And some of the actions that were taken on January 6th, in direct contrast to what Ben Shapiro is saying here. I mean, if he wants Derek Chauvin pardoned and he's so outraged by what happened in the wake of George Floyd's murder, then what about what happened on Capitol Hill? I mean, so there's always a double standard with these people. But yeah, I think it's flooding the zone. I think it is distraction. I think it is, trying to appeal to some of the lowest denominator that got them there in the first place.
And here's the element that lacks intellectual integrity. Chauvin was not the only cop convicted. So if your argument had integrity, you would be calling for the release of every officer who was convicted.
Exactly. Goes back to what I said opening this up. It's to stir up Jake, because who's the only name Jake recognizes? Chauvin. They don't really, the other, how many was it? 6? All right.
For aiding and abetting Chauvin in the first place. But that would mean you are backing a man of color, because there was a black individual who was also convicted. It's interesting.
Yeah, don't mention him.
As they come.
So there you go. Like I said, I'm going to keep this relatively short. Damn shame. Let's get some comments here. How the hell is he going to say that Trump had the Capitol riot? If he does that, it would be hell on earth. You better get ready to put your big boy pants on, blah, 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 blah. What's this about? Trying to get a race war started? Period. Point blank. Hughes, listen to how they're saying that, are despicable. Ben Shapiro is a hateful racist. This is bait attempt for black Americans. What did I say at the onset? Jake should not respond to this. Hello? They want to have a reason to cause disorder and anger. Trump and MAGA want unrest so that people are in the streets. He would have police and National Guards calling for martial law. We right now are not participating in the foolishness. There is nothing they can do to us that we have not been through. Let him out with the rest of the criminals. Please, people, don't take the bait. Exactly. And I'm going to end it on that, because it's good to see motherfuckers have caught on. At least some. Alright, so with that, hey, until the next video. Once again, I hope whoever views this is edified. That's what we do here at Great Millstone. Remember, next week is the Passover. Alright, so with that, hey, shalom.